Hello and welcome. It's Sally, your IELTS teacher with the West London Tuition Academy. And today we are going to think about one part of that IELTS exam. We're going to be discussing task 1 of your writing exercises. So in particular, we are thinking about ways of introducing task 1 or a chart or a graph or a bar chart during that task 1 writing. So let's look at a particular question that you might get in task 1 writing. So let's read together. The chart below shows how frequently people in the USA ate in fast food restaurants between 2003 and 2013. So how are you going to respond to this question? Well, basically, the first paragraph is the introduction. And what you can do in this introduction is just rephrase that question. Let's look in more detail. So it's very important that the introduction is talking about the graph, the visual, and you need to say in 1 or 2 sentences what it shows. So let's think how we can do this. Well, a few ideas that you could do is firstly, number 1, add the name of the graph. We're going to go through these in a moment, one by one. 2, you can replace the verb shows. 3, you can add the category names. 4, by adding a timeline. 5, by rearranging the word order. And finally, 6, by paraphrasing. Let's look at each of those in more detail. So number 1, by adding the name of the graph. Now, generally, task 1 question does not use the specific name of the graph. Mostly it only mentions it as a graph or a chart. So you can replace the word chart by its specific name, such as line graph, bar chart, pie chart, or a table chart. Let me show you what I mean. Here's another task 1 question. And the first statement is what we are going to paraphrase and change today. Let's read it. The graph below shows the quantities of goods transported in the UK between 1974 and 2002 by 4 different modes of transport. So straight away, we can change the graph to, what is it? Well, it's a line graph. Let's have a look at another one. Again, the chart below shows how frequently people in the USA ate in fast food restaurants between 2000 and 2013. Well, it's not just a chart, is it? It's a bar chart. So straight away, you can use the bar chart shows as part of your introduction. Let's look at the second point, number 2. We can replace the verb show or give with other verbs that have the same meaning. And here's some suggestions here. Let's read them together. Provides, illustrates, if you're talking about pie charts and graphs, represents, presents, indicates, explains, or compares. If there's more than one, of course. Let's look at the example. Here again, we have the question. The table below gives information on consumer spending on different items in 5 different countries in 2002. We can just change that verb, not gives. We could use one of the alternatives that we just looked at. So rather than saying gives, we could say provides or presents. Let's see another one. Here again, the chart below shows. We can change shows with one of our previous verbs. So think about other useful phrases that could go after shows or gives. So perhaps we might say shows comparisons of, gives differences in, shows changes, gives information about, shows proportion of or the proportion of, or gives the amount of. Let's look at some examples. The diagram presents data on employment categories in energy producing sectors in Europe, starting from 1925 till 1985. The pie chart informed the proportion of male and female employees in 6 broad categories. The chart gives information on expenditures of 4 European countries on 6 consumer products, namely Germany, Italy, Britain, and France. And again, here we've chosen compares, the bar chart compares the number of male and female graduated, etc. So let's move on to tip number 4. We can add a timeline. At the end of the introduction, it is good to add a timeline, details that are indicated already in the chart. So for example, it could be from 1985 to 1995. It could be between 1985 and 1995, or in, if it's just 1 year, in 2002, for example. Or even you could just say during the period shown in the chart, if you don't want to write all of the years. Number 3, what can we do? Well, we can add category names. Now, this can give some extra words and make the introduction look different from the original description in the question. But be careful. Do not add category names if there is a long list. So it's best not to add category names if there are more than 3, because it'll be very long in the introduction, and we do not, remember, want to list in task 1. We need to explain, and just listing will actually lose you marks. So it's a good idea if there's just a few categories. So for example, here we have writing task 1. We have the categories are shown as road, water, rail, and pipeline. So you could possibly add these when you're explaining, when it says different modes of transport, you could actually use these category names instead. Again, here, the category names are time periods, every day, several times, once a week, etc. We can also add a timeline. We spoke about this before. And again, here it says 1974 to 2002. We could add that as a timeline. Again, there's our timeline, 2002. We can add that into the introduction. Something else we can do is rearrange the word order. So a phrase can be rearranged without changing the original meaning. And it's important because you must not use exactly the same words that are given to you, but you do need to paraphrase. In fact, if you use exactly the same words, they will not count towards your word count. And if you don't fulfill the amount of words that you need, 150, then you will be marked down. So for example, instead of quarterly revenue, we could say revenue per quarter. And again, you do need to think about paraphrasing. So replace words or phrases with other words and phrases of the same meaning. That's what paraphrasing means. So for example, let's read together the examples. Number of could be quantity of. Amount of could be value of. Spending, expenditure is another word for spending. Rate could be percentage. Ratio could be proportion. Information could be data. These are very worthwhile actually memorizing these kinds of paraphrasing words because this kind of words come up all the time in task 1. And look, we have many more paraphrasing examples. So have a look, pause the video, read through them. And, you know, these are ones that it's really worth getting in your head, memorizing. Be careful, though, when you're rephrasing and paraphrasing, you mustn't lose the actual meaning in the rephrasing of the question. Okay, let's give a go then. So here we have the title of the chart, and we are going to change that now into our introduction. Let's read it together, and then we'll see how we are going to change this into our introduction for task 1 of the writing. The graph shows estimated oil production capacity for several Gulf countries between 1990 and 2010. Okay, guys, maybe you want to pause this video, give it a go using our tips, see what you come up with. All right, let's do it together. So, okay, read the introduction, it's below me. This is what we have come from that original question. So, the bar chart represents the approximate daily capacity of production of 6 countries in the Gulf region in 4 separate years, from 1990 to 2010. It's great, huh? Let's see exactly what we did. Well, here we can see that what we have done is we have replaced the graph with bar chart. We have replaced shows with represents. We have rearranged the words oil production capacity, and we've arranged it as capacity of oil production. Several Gulf countries is rephrased as 6 countries in the Gulf region. Per day is replaced with daily. And we've replaced between 1990 and 2010 with 1990, sorry, in 4 separate years from 1990 to 2010. Now, we haven't used the country names or the category names. We haven't added those because there are too many. Remember, we don't want to list. But this is what comes up, and it's very easy. I always think that this technique means that you can quickly write your introduction to task 1 without even thinking. Yeah, and you only have 20 minutes, so it's very important time. Anyway, guys, I hope you found that useful. It's been great to be with you today. And if you want to find out more about the West London Tuition Academy, you know, perhaps you want to join our IELTS course. There are more details on how to register, so you can contact us, email, WhatsApp on this YouTube channel. And of course, guys, subscribe. Take care. Bye.